Welcome back to this week's episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. My special guest is an old friend of mine, Reiko Nakamura, who is the president of SGK Japan. Reiko, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for
it's been a long time since we've seen each other because of COVID, but it's really great to catch up with you again. And so, Reiko, you are one of 8% of people in Japan who are women who are the president of a company. That is the actual official statistics there. You are in a very elite group. So how did you get to this position to be a woman leading a company in Japan? Give us some of the backstory on what's been happening there.
My career started as a radio DJ when I was
DJ?
Yeah.
Oh.
When I was in Kobe, my hometown is Kobe, right? I was still a university student. And
so you're at Kobe University or which?
At the Osaka, in Osaka.
Okay.
And producer who I know invited me to be the one of the program Radio Kansai. And it started when I was 19 years old.
19? Wow, okay.
So it was my first career. But I didn't realize how lucky I was because many people want to be radio DJ or whatever talent. But I didn't make any efforts, but I became radio DJ. And
was that because talking into a mic or having the right sort of personality for that was something that came naturally to you, or did you have to sort of study to become a DJ?
No, my producer said, Reiko, you have to be yourself.
Okay. Easy. That was easy.
Yeah.
Okay,
then I can do that.
Okay. That much I can do, right?
Yes. And with the famous singer Yamamoto Kotaro-san, and with me, we had a weekly program on Friday nights to introduce how we spend the weekend in Kobe.
Oh, okay.
That was interesting, but since I didn't notice how lucky I was, right? And I thought, maybe this is not my job. I want to be normal office lady, OL. So when I graduated university, I selected...
So by the way, what were you studying in university?
English literature, culture, whatever things. But I couldn't speak English at all.
Yes. No worry.
It's normal Japanese.
It's normal Japanese situation. Right?
Yes.
So what happens after university, and did you quit being a DJ at that time? Got a job? Real job?
I joined the advertising company.
Okay, so that's interesting. Why advertising?
At that time, advertising agency is kind of like shining industry.
Very kakoi, sort of very attractive area.
Right.
Yeah.
I just thought, I want to join company, the cool, and 2 days off a week at that time, and something like that.
Because in those days, everyone's working 6 days a week, right? Even the kids are going to school 6 days a week, right?
Correct.
And which company did you join?
Kobe Shimbun Jigyosha, which is one of the biggest advertising agency in Kobe area, right. But very local.
So you said you were from Kobe. Which part of Kobe are you from?
I was living in Sannomiya.
Oh, Sannomiya, right in the middle. Okay, nice.
People call me city girl.
City girl, because you're in Sannomiya.
Some people say you're bad girl from living in Sannomiya.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you in the ad agency?
I think I spent 7 years, and I learned a lot, basic advertising things, and I become #1 salesperson in that company.
Wow. How did that happen? How did you manage to become #1? Did you study sales? Did you get any sales training? How did that work?
People see me at that time, I was kind of very flattered.
What? Sorry?
Flattered, チャラ
Chubby?
チャラ、チャラチャラしてい
A
る。
little bit chubby.
Chubby?
Yeah, a bit chubby.
So people didn't expect me to be number one salesperson, but I try to sell the things by thinking how people see this advertising.
Right. See it from their point of view.
Correct. So I just don't sell the space,
Uh-huh.
but I am proposing how to use the space, for example,
This is a very
planning.
good example because, we teach sales training too. One of the problems is in Japan and everywhere actually. Salespeople get very involved in the spec, the detail, how size the ad, large it is and what page it's going to be on and what colours and da-da-da-da-da. But we don't buy that. We buy the outcome. So you actually intuitively, you were thinking outcome for the client and then the ad was just a tool to get them there, right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's very smart of you.
Yes,
Well
I am.
done. No wonder you became number one. Everyone else is just selling the ad space.
Exactly.
And you're selling the outcome.
Right. So my
And in
boss.
those days, you were probably on, I guess, base salary and bonus, right? Were you on commission as well?
No, Japanese company really don't do
No
that.
commission, right?
Right.
Right. So you could be the top salesperson and your
Yeah.
bonus is probably exactly the same as everybody else's.
Exactly. I just got one letter. Nice job.
Nice job on the letter. That's good.
Right. And I want to work for big client
Yeah.
in Japan. So I moved to the next company in Osaka, still advertising agency, but I could work for like a Panasonic.
Oh, okay. Panasonic's a huge company.
Yeah, it is. So I enjoy it, but I want to work for more global company.
Okay, now how does this work? Okay, you're in Kobe Shimbun, that related company. Now you're in Osaka, you're dealing with Panasonic, and suddenly you're going, Panasonic's too small for me. I want to rule the world. I got to take over the world. How does that process happen? Is this because you're getting more and more confident or people encouraging you? How did that work?
Yes, maybe I get more confidence and I'm more interested to see what's happening in the worldwide. So
Is that because you're coming from Kobe, which is, 1st of April 1868, they opened the port, of Kobe to international trade. And it's been a very international city, one of my favourite cities. I lived in Kobe for 4 years. I loved it there. So is that from that, do you think, or no?
I'm not too sure if that mentality, but people say I'm very positive thinking. So maybe that one.
Okay, so if you want to go international, what happens next?
And I actually started to learn English by myself.
This is what, going to sort of Juku or something like that? Or
The English school.
English school, yeah. Eikaiwa.
Something
Eikaiwa
like
school.
Yeah, right. And I found one advertising to say this company, Shark, is looking for somebody who working in Kobe for Proctor Gamble.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, maybe I should challenge it. And I applied for it. And one American interviewed me in English. So I prepared everything.
This is out on the island, right, for Procter & Gamble, in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, Rock Island.
Hard to even get there.
Yeah. So somehow I passed it.
Okay.
And the second interview, I realized this guy actually speaks Japanese very well.
Oh, sneaky guy.
Yeah.
Didn't tell you.
Right. Second time I realized that. And next interview, he said, I need to meet his boss in United States. So I happened to have my private trip to United States at that time. So I went United States, and my boss Brad Wills came to that place and had an interview.
Oh, very good. How was the second interview?
And that second boss is American, so he never speak in Japanese. So interview was very difficult. I'm doing a lot of body language and
A lot of gestures.
right. But he saw me, my character, he said. And happily he liked me.
Very good.
So he hired me.
Right, okay. So what was your role at Procter & Gamble?
I was print production manager for package design things.
Okay. And did they have a lot of training for you at Procter & Gamble? Did they give you training?
I learned a lot of things from Procter Gamble. They have a great training system.
Yep.
And for example, how to organize the meeting.
Okay.
And
which I guess you never had any of that training in the Japanese company.
Exactly. And before I joined the Procter Gamble, the boss said that you don't need to speak English. But first time I joined Procter Gamble, speak yourself in English. Okay, that is initial story. But I thought I could learn a lot of things by earning money.
Yes.
So before that, I spent money to learn English.
Right. Right. And how long were you at Procter & Gamble?
When I started production manager and I become account manager for Procter Gamble APEC.
APAC area.
Right.
Oh, you're a product manager for APAC area. Wow.
Yeah, right.
You've already started to rule half the world there. Very good.
Which I had my staff in not only in Japan, but Singapore, China, Malaysia.
So you've got people working for you. By this time, you've got a team reporting to you.
Right.
Is this your first occasion to actually lead a team?
I had an experience leading in Japan for the small team in Japan, but I never had experience to manage people, multiple countries.
So when your first experience of leading a team was when you were working in Osaka for that company, or when you were in Kobe?
I was in Kobe.
And you had a small team then?
Right.
Okay. So what were some of the challenges, the challenges to lead an all-Japanese team and the challenge to lead a rather multinational team? What were the differences for you?
So mentality-wise is different. And in Japan, people are so sensitive, and they want to be perfect before they do something.
Yes.
They want to make sure everything, tiny things, one by one, and they want to make sure that change how relative to me.
Yes.
And make actions.
Right. So very cautious.
Yes.
Very slow, but steady, but very perfect.
Exactly. And once they start it, they keep doing that.
Yes.
And even like a client relationship, Japanese company takes time to make a big contract.
Yes.
Small trial. But once we make a contract, it keeps
going.
Lasting.
So getting in is hard, and once you're in, you're in.
Right. Yeah. But like American or other countries, they make big decision first.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
And don't worry about small detail.
Yeah, we'll work that out later.
Right.
So was that shocking for you when you first came across that?
Yeah, it is.
Did you feel, this is so dangerous, they could make a big mistake, there might be a disaster, they should check more carefully, they seem to be too quick? How was your feeling?
But my boss, Brad Willis, at that time, he coached me very well.
Oh.
And he always say, hey, Reiko, yes or no? Hey, Reiko, black or white? And I have to answer like that.
You have to make a decision.
Yeah, in this company. So I slowly started.
So you learn about Western accountability, right?
And I felt he trusts me. And
in Japan, it's often said that the decisions are made through all the nemawashi before the meeting.
Exactly.
So you go around, you talk to everyone before the meeting.
Yes.
Everyone agrees.
Yes.
When you get to the meeting, it's like, okay, we go.
Right.
Put the stamp on the piece of paper, we go.
Right.
But in the Western meeting, we turn up at the meeting and we make the decision in the meeting.
Yes.
And then we work out how it's going to happen, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And how did that feel to you? Was that like, this seems completely the wrong way around here?
Well, I thought that there's more efficient way.
More efficient, yeah? More dynamic.
And faster and good to learn.
Yeah. And what do they do with mistakes, Because in a Japanese company, there's no mistakes, right? So if you make a mistake, it's a really big deal. You know,
Right.
it's a really big deal.
Right.
Could be, very damaging to your career, actually. But, these big national companies, taking these decisions, let's try it. They're bound to be having problems, bound to be having mistakes. And how did they deal with those mistakes?
We actually changed a little bit the way how we work with clients in Japan.
Uh-huh.
For example, we have two different type of clients. One is the global contract.
Yep.
Another one is local contract. So local contract, we gotta be cautious,
Right.
and we wanna make sure everything to be perfect.
So more of a Japanese style working.
Exactly. We need to be localized, and but for global contract, we kind of have like something to say because of global.
Yes. Yes.
They made a decision,
Right.
but still we gotta tweak.
Something to fit it into Japan.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what were, you talk about the differences of mindset, I guess, between multinational staff and Japanese. What were some other differences you found that were challenging for you as a leader?
Well, I think the Japanese are, because of that characteristic, they want to be understood before they make something. So I'm trying to explain the reason behind.
So for the multinational representatives outside of Japan, they want to know the why. They just don't want to be told what to do.
Right.
So I guess for a Japanese employee, would they ever ask for the why? They just want to know what they should do. I guess, is that the difference? Tell me what to do, I'll do it. I don't ask you why, or it was the same?
Not really. I think the culture also been changing, and especially people in my company are more maybe a bit westernized.
Your company today, GSK,
Yeah.
right? Japan, right?
Right.
Okay.
But still mainly Japanese.
Mainly Japanese. Okay. So you're getting your first experience as a leadership here in Kobe, and then later with Procter & Gamble, very famous company. So how long are you at Procter & Gamble?
5-6 years as like a daily management.
Yes.
And I become account management,
Yes.
and maybe another 3-4 years.
Okay, so about 10 years altogether.
Yeah,
Wow.
right.
And then what happens?
And my boss says, now you got to move out from Procter Gamble, but you got to grow your business in Japan. I become Managing Director of Japan.
Managing Director of Procter & Gamble Japan.
No. Managing Director of Shark Japan, now called SGK Japan.
Oh, okay. Well, hang on a minute. How do we get from Procter & Gamble to Shark Japan? How does that work? Because they're two different companies, right? Separate companies. Or is it part of Procter & Gamble?
No, totally different company.
Totally different. So you're in Procter & Gamble for 10 years, and your boss says, Reiko, you should leave and go and do something else.
I was not employee of Procter Gamble. I was on site in Procter Gamble from Shark.
Okay, well, we've got to wind back here, wind back. So were you working for Shark in Osaka?
We had a Shark in Kobe.
In Kobe. So I'm mixing up the order here. So Kobe Shimbun, advertising agency in Osaka,
Osaka.
and then you quit that and joined Shark
In Kobe.
in Kobe
Right.
as what?
As print production manager from Shark.
Okay,
And
so
being on site in Procter Gamble.
so you joined Shark and they sent you to get to Procter & Gamble was through Shark, right? Okay, I get it. So
Right.
it's like a secondment. A secondment into Procter & Gamble from Shark. Okay.
Right. At that time, there is no Shark office, but I was in Procter Gamble.
Right. No Shark office in Japan, but you're in Procter & Gamble. Well, I guess it's getting too complicated for this podcast.
It is.
We'll move on. Okay, so now I get it. So, all right. So your boss in Shark said that? Or the boss in Procter & Gamble said that? Where was
Boss
it?
in Shark. Boss
Said-
in my company.
Said, we want you to become managing director of Shark in Japan.
Correct.
In Japan.
In Japan, and grow
With-
your business in
And
Japan.
no office at this point.
Oh, at that time we had an office, small office.
In Kobe?
Kobe, near Proctor Gamble.
Oh, okay, out on Rocco Island. Okay, right. So, wow, that's a big promotion, right?
Right.
You know, as I said before, 8% of presidents in Japan are women. It's a very small group of people for a country this size. And so for you, that age, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but relatively you were probably young.
I was, yes.
And became managing director quite young, actually, which is quite a big achievement. Well done. So then are you moving out of the Procter & Gamble office and you're working in the Shack office every day, right? And then the job is to grow Shack in Japan.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So what do? You're now in Tokyo. So at some stage you moved the company headquarters to here.
Right.
Is this after the earthquake this happened, or is there a connection there, or?
Before earthquake, end of 2008, we moved to Tokyo. But before that, from Kobe, I was doing sales activities.
Okay.
And I was kind of like going back.
So you were based in Kobe but selling into Tokyo.
Correct.
Okay. Right.
And I got more and more clients in Tokyo. And the clients say, why you don't live in Tokyo?
Yeah.
My boss also said, why are you still in Kobe?
Yes.
Because I love Kobe. But
I love Kobe. Why? Have you ever been to Kobe? Of course I want to be in Kobe, right? I love Kobe. It's a great place. I love it.
I was born and raised in Kobe. But now I got the chance to move to Tokyo.
Okay.
And moved to Tokyo in end of 2008.
208. Okay, just in time for Lehman.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Good timing, yeah, brilliant timing, yeah.
Cannot be lower.
No, right, exactly. And so you still got a team in Kobe?
Yes, we have still small.
Still running, but now you come to Tokyo, you've got to start from zero. Did people come with you from Kobe to start in Tokyo, or are you just by yourself?
I have 2 people from Kobe
Came with you.
me. Yeah. But now we have more than 50 people in.
50 people.
Right.
Wow, okay. So when you get to Tokyo, you're starting to build. Now, you know, Shack is not a commonly well-known company, I'm guessing, in Tokyo, right?
Right, B2B, yeah.
And young Japanese people, when they're looking for a job, they're probably thinking, you know, Mitsubishi, Hitachi, Panasonic, these big Japanese companies, their parents are definitely thinking like that. So how do you convince young people to come and join a company with a really strange name? Shack, what the hell is that? Sounds weird, right? Shack. So not such an easy name to understand what it means. What's the business? How do you recruit people?
Our job is kind of niche, unique job. We're making like a branding, packaging for those big name company, the Coca Cola, Mars.
So the clients are a big name.
Exactly.
So that's attractive, right? Get to work with some big name companies.
Yeah. Anything we created, you can see at supermarket, drugstore. Hey, this is what I have done.
Right.
So those attractiveness, and also I was trying to sell like a atmosphere of our company.
Well, hang on a minute. What is this atmosphere of the company? There's 3 people, right? What is the Shack atmosphere? What does that mean?
Yeah, maybe at that time like 5, 10 people, and we work very openly.
Yep.
And a lot of Japanese companies tend to do. You don't need to do that. You don't need to speak up. But we encourage everybody to speak up and exchanging the ideas, so on.
So it's like a startup, really, isn't it? It's really like a startup, very flat. Not a lot of hierarchy. You need people to do multiple jobs, not just single job.
Yeah.
And you need ideas, right? How are we going to do this? We get everyone's ideas. So it must be very freeing, I guess, and exciting for young Japanese people to join a company like that. Because in a traditional company, they have to look at, well, when I'm 35, I might become, section head. And when I'm 45 or 55, I might become division head or something. But here, you're actually part of the decision-making, which is, interesting.
Yeah, and the people who enjoy that one can enjoy my company.
Right, okay. So you're looking for those sorts of people when you're recruiting, okay?
Right.
So what was the difference of the number of people you were leading down in Kobe compared to the number of people you started to lead in Tokyo? When did that number change?
When I was in Kobe, actually it became 10 people.
10 people in Kobe, right?
But a lot of people don't come to Tokyo.
Right.
Couldn't come to Tokyo. And we actually did some restructuring as well.
Right.
And we restarted Tokyo with 1 to 3 people, really.
Right. Yeah. And so at some point you get to 10 people again, and you've got a few people still in Kobe, so you're running quite a big organization. What did you find was different? Like when you get to 10, they say that 15 is the magic number. They say 15 is the magic number. They say that up to 15 people, as an individual leader, you can basically take care of everything.
I got
But
it.
once you start to get over 15, you can't take care of everything anymore, and you've got to really start working through your leaders inside the company.
Correct.
So how did you find that transition from you're doing everything to then having to rely on other people to do stuff too?
Yeah, that was one of tough thing for me to do because before that, it was easy for me to deal with everything by myself. And I felt the closer relationship with each employee. But after maybe 2-3 years ago, I organized 3 different sections, and those heads is now running their business.
Right.
And usually I meet those 3 leaders to talk about business future.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Okay, so you're a woman leading a company in Japan. Is GSK Japan
SGK.
SGK, I get it right. SGK Japan, sorry. Is SGK Japan full of women? Are there any guys there?
Interesting question. I think half and half.
Half and half. So, Japan has a very male-oriented hierarchy, paternalistic type of culture. Was it hard to get guys to work for a woman?
People say that. I didn't think so, but
Well, you mightn't have thought so. You're the boss. Okay. They have to put up with you, I guess.
But when I really become the leader for the multiple countries,
Yes.
I actually struggled. How should I behave?
Okay.
Because my character is like this.
Yes.
But should I talk, hey guys, you gotta do,
Be like a man.
Yeah, because at that time I thought leader should be like that, maybe, or I was really struggled. How
Did they have any leadership training for you when you were at Procter Gamble? Or was it mainly technical?
I think I got some small training.
Small training for leadership, right?
But when it became reality, and I had the elder guy in Singapore, for example.
Older than you.
Older than me. So, I changed my mind. I should be myself.
Okay.
So being like a man doesn't mean leader.
No.
Right, so it should be myself, and I should use my strengths of myself to lead the team.
So man, woman, doesn't matter. You're yourself. This is Reiko. This is what we're going to do.
Exactly.
And away we go, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so good. And so the other aspect too, I guess, of business, and you were doing a lot of sales development before, you're getting clients, you're the number one salesperson. I often wonder, particularly for, you're mainly selling, I guess, to Japanese guys, I guess, your clients, right? Counterparties, often men. Does that sometimes become a bit tricky? Because you see yourself as a professional and you're representing your company and your product or your service, and they're seeing you as a very attractive woman. And they start to mix up what actually the relationship is going to be here. You know, and often in Japan there's a whole layer of client entertainment, going to golf, going to karaoke, going to restaurants, you know, well, clubs for guys, I don't go to clubs or whatever. How did you handle that? Because sometimes it can be a bit unclear to them as to where the line is here. I'm pretty sure it was clear to you, but maybe not clear to them. Did you have trouble at some stage dealing with that?
Yeah. For example, I have experienced that when I joined some joint events, who like, meet the people, like when we meet together. One guy asked me, "Hey, did you come here to look for the man, your boyfriend?" It's a business meeting.
Networking event?
Yes.
Wow. What did you feel when he said that?
I thought he's so rude.
Yes. How insulting, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't see me as a professional.
Yes, right.
He just sees me as a young woman.
Correct. I was kind of shocked, but I just smiled. But that kind of things happened. And but when I was first company, I was much younger, right? And more men dominated
society, yeah.
Right. And a lot of those men who approaching me were there. But one thing I decided is I never used the sales tool as I am woman.
Don't use the femininity as a sales tool, right? Yeah.
Right.
But I have to say, in my experience, plenty of women don't make that choice. Plenty of Japanese women in business play we call it in English, I guess actually come from French, the femme fatale, the attractive woman card, you know. They realise men's weakness, so they flip it around, you know. They flip it around and they use it to get the men to give them the business. They don't get anything else, but they get the business, you know. So that's interesting you chose to do that. And what about also as a leader? You're the boss. You're the managing director of the company. You know, often you hear this, that a woman will be in a senior position and the guys in a meeting are going to expect her to make the tea, you know, or to serve them like she's an OL or something, right? They don't even recognise that a woman could possibly be a leader, could possibly be the boss, and they don't have the right procedure of dealing with them. Did you ever have these sorts of occasions too? Yeah,
when I went to the client place with my boys, and client thought he's my boss. Yeah, and so
they're talking to him.
Correct.
Not to you.
Right. That still happened, but after we speak out, after we did the presentation, and after we know each other, people recognize.
Well, actually, you got on your meishi for a start, you know, on your business card. It's pretty clear who you are, and it's pretty clear who your male staff are. So it should be easy for them to work that out, right?
If they see that, yes.
If they see that, right? Yeah. Shouldn't be a mistake, right? So in terms of, you've got about 50-50, 25 guys, 25 ladies in the company. And so you've now got direct reports, like division heads, I guess. Are they all women or do you have men as well?
2 men, 1 woman.
2 men, 1 woman. Okay, so there's no gender balancing bias or anything here. It's all basically based on ability, I guess.
Right. It really doesn't matter man or woman. And people think maybe men can do better job on sales, or maybe women can do a better job or supporting the business.
Right.
Behind.
Yep.
But there's still people like even men, but he's doing good at supporting
Right,
things.
right.
And the women do good salesperson.
Yes.
So it really doesn't matter I believe.
Right. And so in terms of with any team, how do you get them to feel engaged? Now, in many companies, foreign companies, they have international surveys of employee satisfaction or engagement levels. I don't know, at SGK, do they have that too? Do they have that page as well?
Yes.
So in my experience, and I've been in companies where they have these, and you have to go to the meeting. The hub is normally Singapore or Hong Kong or something. And you turn up there and the regional boss is there and they're going through the results and they're showing, global, they're showing, regional, Europe, Americas, APAC. And always APAC's engagement score is lower than everywhere else. And then the bottom of APAC is Japan. And so you always get this questions. Well, why? What are you doing there in Japan? You're obviously doing a poor job because the Japanese team members are not engaged. What are you going to do about it, right? How's your experience been with this?
Good to know that. That happened.
Happens, yeah?
Yeah. But I think it's also proof of Japanese are so majime.
Yeah, very serious. Yeah.
Serious. Yeah. And they are so proud of what they do.
Yep.
And,
high standards, high personal standards. Yep.
Correct. And one of the questionnaire in the engagement survey is like, do you recommend your job to your friends?
Exactly, right?
And very low rate.
Very low score.
Yes.
And here's a good question. Why do they give it such a low score? Why don't they want to recommend this company to their friends or family? Why is that?
I thought because they are proud of what they do, and what they do is very professional, and not everybody can do that. So that's showing the proud of what they do. Also, Japanese, that current young people have like two different accounts in Twitters.
Yeah.
One is the front face,
Yep.
and another one is
Yep.
back face. They have two faces, right? And usually those internet survey, they become bad face.
Yep.
And they may think, I have to say something here.
Right.
So this is only chance I say something. So that's mentality also there, I guess.
Yeah, I've always thought that was an inappropriate question culturally for Japan. And I found the same thing. There were two particular questions. I forget what the other one was, but that one, and I thought to myself, Japanese people do not want to have responsibility or accountability for recommending their company to somebody they know if the person doesn't like it or if they create trouble in the company because they're no good, or, they don't want to have that degree of accountability. So I always thought that was an inappropriate question. They should take that out for a Japanese audience, and the score would go straight up, And I forget what the other one was. It was a similar sort of problem. It was a cultural problem. Yeah, so, and how do you explain this to headquarters, right? Because headquarters goes, hey, Reiko, your team are not engaged. Look at these scores. What are you going to do to rectify this in 90 days? The usual head office sort of stuff, right?
Yes.
From people who know nothing about Japan,
right?
Usually, right? So what do you say to these people?
I challenge like what I said. And I also argue that the questionnaire doesn't fit for Japanese to answer.
Right.
And even translation sometimes
is not right, yeah.
Right. So some people understand, but some actually this is forever the arguments, I guess.
It's probably too complex for them to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So, but apart from, it's interesting. When I ask people, we had the engagement survey, it was terrible, wasn't any good. I ask, well, do you think your team are engaged? And often they say no. I don't think they're engaged, and maybe there are inappropriate questions for the culture, but often people say, no, I don't think they're engaged either. So I don't know, what do you think for your team? Are they engaged?
I believe so.
Now, here's a question. Why are they engaged? What have you done to make them become engaged? What's that atmosphere you've got down there that makes them want to be engaged?
Right. And I still have weekly meeting with my whole team every Monday morning.
Okay, whole team, everybody.
Right. Now with Teams.
Yep, on Teams, yes. So it's video as well, yeah.
Yep. And each account team explain what's going on, what's the problem, what's the good things, and sharing those information to the 50 people. Even actually with Teams, it's good for people from Kobe also can join.
Can join in, yeah.
Yeah. I see some benefits doing the remote working though. And also it gives me, and I believe it gives them to feel more close communication, right? Face-to-face communication, like.
Okay, and so good communication, sharing what's going on. What are some other things you do to engage? Because there's a lot of people who are going to be watching this video, listening to the podcast, who are going to be saying, well, how do I get my team in Japan engaged? I've been sent out here to Japan to run the business here. I don't know much about Japan. I get these scores coming back. They look terrible. I'm getting all this pressure from headquarters. They're killing me. What can I do to get the engagement going here? So what are some other ideas you have for getting further engagement?
I think people want to be listened.
Okay.
So
when you got 50 people, how does that work?
I'm trying to chat. Even some people come to the office. Now we do almost remote working, but we do that like a time to come to office. And I'm trying to maybe just one sentence chat with people, just joking something. And also asking my 3 team to engage with another level with the people. I trust those 3 people, and they manage their team well.
Right.
And anything they have a problem, they bring up, and we have like 3 communications.
Okay.
Together.
So does SGK have any training for leadership? You know, because you've now got a bigger team than before. It's obviously, there's a hierarchy now of division heads or direct reports. Do they get any training?
Yeah. Our HR does the training program.
And is this a program coming from headquarters in English?
Yes, US.
And then do you switch it into Japanese, or they do it in English, or how does that work?
They do in English.
They do it in English, okay.
Right. For leadership meeting, leadership can speak English. So.
Okay. And so in terms of, you know, you need to be coaching them too, obviously, because you're speaking Japanese with them and you're all local to Japan, you know what's going on here. What do you do to educate them or to help them become better leaders in addition to what HR is providing in English from headquarters?
To the leaders? I try to show, the Japanese say, show your senaka.
Show your back, yeah.
Right? So when we encounter the new challenge, nobody knows the answers. Nobody knows the correct things to do. So it's not only you guys to struggle those situations, but I also struggle. So I'm trying to show how I achieve it, and even not only achieve it, how I struggling.
Okay. And so what about innovation, you know, because you're in a very creative industry, very highly competitive industry. So I'm assuming that innovation and creativity is going to be one of the differentiators of your team in the way that you are working with clients, the types of campaign ideas you bring to them, the tweaks, the angles, the adjustments from overseas to a Japanese local market. How do you build that creativity, innovation component inside the team?
Yeah, that the Japanese tend to, you know, not good at thinking out of the box.
Right. Why is that?
I don't know, but I think education is different. I was surprised that one of my friends, European, how he taught things to the kids is different how our parents taught me. Japanese parents are very, care the children. They create the road for kids to walk in.
Right.
But those European parents just let them go by themselves.
Right.
Think about how you do it. So that's mentality could be different.
Yeah. Independence.
Correct.
Yeah, I know with my parents, I was brought up very independent. They want it. Well, I guess the thinking is that the parents aren't going to be there forever. The parents can't take care of people forever.
Sure.
So you got to learn to stand on your own 2 feet, be independent. And I left home when I was 18, moved in with my girlfriend at 18. It's probably a bit too young. But anyway, and started paying for everything for myself from that point on, right? But in Japan, the kids leave when they're about 25 or something, or maybe don't even leave till they're 30,
True.
They're here forever. So how do you get that creativity going then? How do you get them to think out of the box?
Right. I actually created a few years ago, I made a project called, at that time, Shark Japan Innovative Project.
Okay.
And I asked everybody to list up what you think you can do or you want to do for 5 years later, 10 years later, white space from what we do. And I got many ideas. You don't need to care that it's a funny, small, big, whatever, but you can think of anything. And I made some group, and I asked each group to come up with the presentation.
So is this getting everyone together in a room and saying, okay, we're going to make up some ideas, or is this people sending you their ideas one by one, then you are grouping them into similar columns?
Yes.
You're doing it.
Later one, right.
Okay. Then once you've broken up into columns, then you say, okay, you guys all had this idea, work on that. You guys had this idea, work on that. You guys had this idea, work on that. Okay.
Right. And some people enjoy it, but some people may felt, it's too much.
What do they think is too much?
It's too much because I'm too busy on daily job.
Okay, right.
And also, even they think what they can do, it really cannot beyond what they do.
Right.
So some presentation was very interesting to listen, and some presentation, what's the difference what we are doing? But still, important thing is that let them think about by themselves.
Yeah.
And encourage. I'm always encourage people to speak out.
Yeah.
And encourage people to present what they think, instead of just complain, instead of just saying.
One of the problems with brainstorming in Japan is often the boss grabs the whiteboard pen and says, "Give me some ideas," and then as the ideas are coming, they say things like, "Oh, that's a stupid idea. Give me another idea. Oh, we did that already. It didn't work. Give me another idea." And of course, it kills all the inspiration and all the motivation to give any ideas.
Right.
So only the really aggressive, 3 or 4 people who talk up a lot get their ideas up on the board, and the vast majority of people, their ideas never get out there. But even when they get the ideas out, often nothing happens to them. You spend all this effort and time to brainstorm, gets on the big flip charts or whiteboards or whatever, and that's the end of it. And you never see the actual taking of the ideas into execution.
Right.
So how do you get around that problem?
Execution is actually very important part. And we actually had a training how to execute it and how important to follow up things.
Is this coming from headquarters on how to do execution?
Yeah,
okay,
right.
Good.
So the leadership team took those training and encouraged people to track and do the follow-up things.
Right, right. And have any really great ideas been executed as a result of this process so far?
One group actually still doing it, and some innovative things happening now.
And are you using, for example, you said that a lot of your work can be seen in the retail environment, right? So, and your competitors' work can be seen in the retail environment too, I suppose. So do you use that, here's our stuff in the retail environment, as a type of team building, pride building exercise? Do you use what the competitors are doing to create a us and them, competitive type of mentality? What do you do about that?
We don't have exact competitor versus what we do, everything. But
nice.
The competitor.
You're a very lucky woman.
Competitor for this area, competitor for this area.
Okay, so you've got a broad coverage then.
Correct.
Right.
But still designed by this competitor, but this one designed by us.
All right, okay.
And we see the difference that we really gave a lot of thoughts before we create the design.
Right.
We can see that when it's on the shelf.
Right.
And that makes us proud of being this company.
Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. You've got some good creativity going there, getting the execution going. The other big thing in business in Japan, I think, is trust. So, again, you started as a leader as a relatively young woman. You were given high positions. People have to trust you. They have to feel that, well, what Reiko says is what we should be doing. I should follow Reiko's ideas. So how do you build trust? I mean, as a relatively young woman, you were put into high positions to lead people. Now you're responsible for Japan. How did you get people to believe your direction, to believe what you said, to build that trust? What did you do?
First of all, we got to do what we said. And we show those examples, what we did. And it gets more and more, and we get more trust and trust.
I'm thinking not so much trust from the buyers, but from your team. How do you get your team members to trust you? Like I say, you started as a relatively young woman in a leadership position, and you're getting people to believe you, to believe in you. And you worked out at some point, I should be me. I shouldn't try to be a guy. I'm going to be me and lead as me. So how do you get people to follow you and trust you?
Oh, my team.
From your team, not the clients, but from your team members.
Maybe being positive.
Being positive, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have any moody, depressed, angry days. You go to the office and or you're always bright and ginky and smiling. What is going on there?
I sometimes dare to show my bad things.
Okay.
But basically, I'm always positive, and a Monday morning call is also trying to make them fun and enjoy the meeting.
Right.
And I keep saying to my people, job is job. It's hard. You got to do hard things, but let's enjoy it.
Okay.
So I think those the positive attitudes, and they also try to enjoy it.
What other things do you do to build trust? I mean, particularly now with COVID, we're all working remotely. You don't get to see people as often. They're not. You can't walk in the office and they're all there. You're on a little screen somewhere on a Teams call. So how do you build trust in that environment?
Yeah, that's actually we don't have an answer, to be honest. But we are discussing every time with the leadership team. And remote working makes difficult to communicate. But again, like a team's meeting can feel more casual and more face-to-face and more closed communication.
Right.
So,
do you think it's closer than when in person? Do you think there's a difference?
Person is best, but
right.
But if we talk like 10 people in the meeting,
right,
maybe we don't close to each person, right?
Right.
But
right.
in the teams, we can meet one everybody, right?
Right. Right. Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, so. Are there any things about leadership which I haven't asked you about, which I should have asked you about, particularly leading as a woman in business in Japan?
Correct. You know that Japan is still one of the worst country.
120 list of the gender index, right? Equality index. It was 121 last year. It's moved up one place.
Correct. So I want to say to the ladies, girls to be ambitious.
Girls be ambitious. Whoa, okay, good.
So don't be afraid, and you gotta be yourself.
Okay, and how do you belong to women networks? Do you belong to study groups, Benkyokai, made up of women? Because they're in Tokyo, as a foreigner, I noticed there are lots of, I'd call them support groups for women, lots of them. And there are a lot of very prominent women very active in these organizations. Usually they're foreign, usually English, rather than just, I probably don't see all the Japanese versions either as much. But do you take part? Are you active in these types of organizations?
Not really actively, but I joined some of the organization, and sometimes I gave a speech to the young ladies.
Oh, very good.
But to be honest, I don't like to emphasize that I am a woman.
Right, right.
Even my company has like a leadership in women, and I am a member of that, but I feel it's a big difference that we keep saying we are women, we have to be but we just need our strengths.
Yes.
And we don't need to emphasize it, but you gotta use your strengths. If you can find it, even men and women, they fail.
Find the strength and use that.
Right.
Okay. Although, you could make the argument that the playing field is not even in Japan for women and men. Men have an advantage. Women have a disadvantage. Therefore, women need more help. Women need more support. Strength is fine, but you can often get overlooked for the promotion because you're not a man, or there's some bias against men's attitude to women. So there's this argument that we need to get the balance right. So that means you've got to be proactive. And by itself, it won't ever happen, is the argument. What do you think?
Yeah, that's I wanna how can I say? If there's like top ceiling things, I wanna be help of breaking it.
Break the ceiling down. Yeah. Good. So if you're going to give some advice to someone who was going to be sent to Japan, okay, your next posting is Tokyo, go to Japan, take over the operation there, get it going, fix it. Usually it's fix it. That's why you get sent out here. What would be some advice you'd have for people to do that?
So again, the Japanese employee, they don't really raise up hands or they don't speak up. But important thing is to encourage them to speak up and showing you care your people and navigate with the reason behind why we do that, why we do this. You help me, then company can do that. So explanation is also important. So anything localization, you gotta realize the localization for Japan culture is important.
Should they, proactively study Japanese culture? Should they study Japanese language? What do you think?
I believe so. Even a little bit Japanese speaking, maybe bit different impression for Japanese.
Oh, what's the different impression?
Oh, you speak Japanese. Konnichiwa. Just saying konnichiwa. Oh, you speak Japanese, right? But that makes a first step of the conversation.
Right. So if you use a little bit of Japanese, the Japanese person feels better, feels more comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. What about, there's a very famous German philosophy professor called Professor Hegel, who was here in the pre-war period. And he wanted to understand Zen as one of the philosophies. He was a philosophy professor.
Right.
And his advice was you should study the Japanese art of Kyudo. And so he wrote a book.
I read it.
You've read the book, right? Okay, I've read the book too. Fascinating book. But that was interesting. He could learn a lot about Zen and therefore Japanese culture through the art of Kyudo, Japanese archery. So do you think that foreigners should take up some traditional Japanese arts, to better understand Japan?
Yeah, that's one of the way. And as he was saying, the Japanese company see the progress to the goal. So they think it's important to what steps they're gonna take to the goal.
Process, yes.
Right. Instead of this is goal.
Yes. Well, I often hear this, that in Japan, the most important question is should we be doing this rather than how we do it, So that initial question of actually should we be doing this at all, right? Ask that question first rather than how we're going to do it. So that's interesting. That's a very risk-averse way of approaching things, So what's some other advice you'd give people who are coming here?
Okay. I don't think they need to learn a lot of things to learn Japanese cultures,
right.
but they need to show they want to learn Japanese cultures. Those attitude is very important.
Show the connection. Okay. Well, finally, I know that you said that you want to be seen as a professional. You believe that people should play to their strengths. But is there any single or two pieces of advice you have for, say, any younger women? They don't have to be necessarily Japanese, but just younger women who want to move up into leadership positions in a man's world, because it's a man's world just basically everywhere. It's not just Japan, but Japan's particularly a man's world, I think. Any particular advice you have for them to make that succeed for them?
Yeah, I think that most important thing is don't be afraid and open every door to see the world.
Okay. Try that. All right. All right. Well, Reiko, thank you very much. It's been wonderful to catch up with you after so long because of COVID. We don't see each other anymore. We don't see anybody anymore because of COVID.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Japan's top business interviews. And please join us for next week's episode.